Afshar is the Publishers Weekly best-selling author of biblical and inspirational historical fiction, including Land of Silence, Harvest of Gold, Harvest of Rubies, Pearl in the Sand, Thief of Corinth, Daughter of Rome, Jewel of the Nile, and so many others. Tessa was born in the Middle East and lived there for the first 14 years of her life. She then moved to England, where she survived boarding school for girls and fell in love with Jane Austen and Charlotte Bronte before moving to the United States permanently. Her conversion to Christianity in her 20s changed the course of her life forever. Tessa holds a Master of Divinity from Yale, where she was elected as the co-chair of the Evangelical Fellowship of the Divinity School for 1 year. She served in women and prayer ministries for 20 years before becoming a full-time writer and speaker. Tessa is a devoted wife, an enthusiastic cook, and a mediocre gardener. That has not cured her from being exceptionally fond of chocolate. Tessa, it's so good to see you today.
It's lovely to be with you, Heather, and I'm so excited to join with your tribe and kind of get to know them a little bit.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you. So, Tessa, you write, I know you have written devotionals as well, but we all know you and love you for your biblical fiction. When did you start writing and what drew you to this genre?
My first book that came out is called Pearl in the Sand, and that was in 2010. So I think I started writing that novel about a year and a half before that. I absolutely did not mean to write novels that were set in biblical times or indeed included biblical characters. I always say God bamboozled me into writing fiction set in biblical times. But at the time, I was reading about Rahab, and I was very drawn to this character. She was a woman who literally lived in a wall. And as a writer, I love that image because I think so many of us live not in necessarily actual walls, but emotional walls and spiritual walls. And I wanted to talk about that. So I was very blessed that that book was published, and then the publisher came back and said, "Okay, what's your next book?" And I kind of at that time, I think I was fostering hopes of writing uh, in something about historical England, and they're like, "No, we meant what else in biblical times are you going to write?" And so the Lord forged my way without my really being aware that that was going to be the way it was. So we had a little bit of a tussle about that. It didn't come easily to me. I had this other dream, and so I had to give the dream to him, but also to trust him that even though this wasn't what I had expected to be writing, that he had prepared me for this, that he would allow me to write it the way I thought I could write. And that's been sort of the greatest fun for me. And I think that the readers also join in the same fun, is the reality that I'm not writing Bible studies. I have Bible studies, but those are very different things. I'm writing action, I'm writing romance, I'm writing adventure, I'm writing a little bit of mystery, and they happen to be set in biblical times, and God happens to be one of the characters sort of in the background, um, kind of making his presence known and revealing his nature to us, even though, uh, you know, it doesn't look like that because most of the time you're kind of running from one adventure to the next, but that's really what it's about.
I absolutely love the way you just described that. And as a reader, I'm so thankful that God led you to writing those biblical stories. You have brought so many, um, we use the word characters, but we know they were real people, and you bring them to life, and you help us look at the stories we've grown up reading. You help us look at them in a different way and really um, humanize those people that we read about and think about their feelings, their thoughts, their past. So, as a reader, we appreciate that, and as a fellow writer, I appreciate what you said about just giving it to God. And even though it wasn't what you had planned, it was what He had planned. So that spoke to my heart personally as well. Today, we wanted to talk a little bit about the Peasant King. So, can you tell us what inspired that story?
Yes. So this is the latest novel that came. You asked me to hold up a copy, so this is
Yes.
it. And I love this cover, by the way. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know.
Oh,
It's
yes.
just really cool.
Gorgeous.
So the Peasant King is the story of a woman, 6th century BC. So it's 50 years into the Judah's captivity in Babylon. And we know from prophecy that after 70 years that captivity is supposed to finish, but nobody knows how that's possible because Babylon is still the most powerful nation in the world and there's nobody who can beat them. So who's going to set the captives free in 20 years? It's just an impossibility. But there is a prophecy from Jeremiah that says the kings of Media will do this. And then there's a prophecy from Isaiah, a much more detailed prophecy that says that it's actually a Persian king who will set them free. So we have 20 years. The Persian king has to also become the king of the Medes for both prophecies to come true. And Persia was a very small country at this time, very poor. They had very famous soldiers. Their soldiers were incredibly strong and good at their job, but they didn't have that many, and they didn't have the money to really, you know, uh, equip them. So the for the Persians to overcome the Medes was an impossibility. The Medes were so much bigger, and for the Persians to overcome Babylon was just a joke. So how is this prophecy going to come to pass? And really, the main character is a fictional character, and she thinks of herself as someone very ordinary. She doesn't have a superpower like the rest of her family. And yet God chooses her, calls her to do an ordinary woman given an extraordinary task. And then when she accomplishes that extraordinary task, she realizes that she actually has more to do from God, that she's to play an important role in the fulfillment of that prophecy. That's what drew me in because I just looking at prophecy and saying, and then alongside, we don't often get this, but alongside these prophecies, we have historical documents, historians who tell us what really happened in the world. Because the Bible says, oh, yeah, I'm going to call Cyrus, and God gives Cyrus two promises. I will open the doors of bronze before you, which is the impossible doors, and I will equip you. And then the historians who are secular and don't really care about the Lord or anything, they tell us how this comes to pass. And they just keep saying, oh my gosh, it's a miracle. Like that battle should never have been won. It's a miracle. And I'm like, oh, that's a door of bronze. That's a door of bronze. Oh, God must have equipped him here. And so that's really what this book was about. It was about the excitement of recognizing the faithfulness of God in history and on a personal level as well as on um, a national level. Countries are still in the palm of God's hands. And so, I mean, for me today, that was just such an encouraging experience.
Yeah, we all need the encouragement right now. Definitely. I think we all need that. I have not read The Peasant King yet. I think I've read almost all of your other books, but I have not. That one's in my to be read pile. So now you've just made me even more excited to read it. Can you tell us what you're working on next?
Yes. And for those of you who are now interested and want to read The Peasant King, I would say don't buy The Peasant King first, buy The Hidden Prince first. It's a perfectly self-contained novel. It will finish at the end. You'll be perfectly happy. You won't feel like, oh my gosh, now I need to buy a second book. It will be finished. So if you don't like the series at that point, but I just feel like you get more out of it when you read both. And so if you're gonna dip your toe in, dip it with The Hidden Prince. And then the
Nice.
next series of novels, thank you. So I'm working with a new publisher. I'm working with Bethany for the next three novels, and it's going to be a trilogy. And it's going to be three novels set in Queen Esther's time. So the constant in these novels is going to be the character of Queen Esther, who will be in each one. And as it happens, I have access to Queen Esther's secret scrolls. So I
Wow.
will be quoting Queen Esther's secret scrolls through the stories of the main characters. So the first novel is called The Queen's Cook. It's about a Persian woman who finds herself a cook in Queen Esther's kitchens and sort of the adventures that she has in that process.
Wow. So can you tell us how you got a hold of Queen Esther's secret scrolls?
It's called God's Imagination.
Ah.
I made it up. When I read the book of Esther, and then I read the sort of historical accounts of the time, and I've been doing a lot of research into Persia, so I know a little. And they're very mysterious people. We don't have a whole lot of information, but we have more and more as the years go, and we've done more research. But putting those together, I sort of wrote these short excerpts from with first person from Queen Esther, so that you can, even though you are in this story, in this other story in which you see Queen Esther through the main character's eyes, I also wanted her to have a more personal presence with that first person voice, because she goes through so much when you think about it. So it's 3 books worth, and each book kind of will focus on one portion, but she's a child who's lost her parents. She's a child who lives in a country that's not her own, and grows up in a country that's not her own, with a faith that's not her faith. She's a woman who's taken into the court from a very different background. She's chosen to be a queen. As a queen, she has to make a decision almost to die for the sake of her people. There's a chance. And there's so much in that story that I thought it would be fun to hear from her.
I love it.
Secret Scrolls.
Yes. Do you know when the first book is going to be released, or do you have a
It's
date?
next fall. It's next fall. I'm so glad you asked that question, because I kind of thought I said it sarcastically enough that everybody knows there's no such thing. But I'm so glad you asked, because if someone kind of misconstrued that and came away thinking I'm actually doing that, that's
I thought it was probably something from your imagination, but my husband is all about research, and he loves, all the biblical research. And usually he'll quote books that I've never heard of, or quote from secular historians that I've never heard of. And I thought, okay, maybe there is some kind of scroll out there that we're
yes. Yeah.
so
No, I
yeah.
totally get it. And that's what I mean, is I'm just so glad you asked, and that there is absolutely no doubt about the fact that I made this up. I made it up, people. It's what I do for a living. But it's
Exactly.
based on a lot of research. It's based
Right.
on a lot of research.
Yeah. Just like all of your books, based on so much research. And so beautiful the way you tie your imagination with history, and you bring us um, such great stories, but also such great encouragement, always pointing back to God. I love that.
Thank you. Thank you, Heather.
So, are you ready to begin what we call the lightning round?
You bet. You bet.
It has never gone lightning fast. Let me tell you, authors have a lot of words. And so,
Exactly. Well, because what you're essentially saying is I want you to make a decision and choose one thing. And I can't even like choose a favorite ice cream flavor. So, I'm sorry.
I'm with you. I know
No.
it's really fun to see how long the lightning rounds last. All right. So the first question is, what is your favorite genre to read?
I think historical, as long as there's a little bit of mystery and romance in there, that becomes like my absolute favorite.
Great. What is your favorite dessert?
Anything that has whipped cream in it. That's as narrow as I can get.
Good. What is your favorite way to spend a quiet evening?
Uh, with my hobby, either reading or watching a movie or just chatting.
Are you a plotter or a pantser?
I think by nature I'm a pantser. And I've learned to call it discovery writer. It gives it a little more, class.
I like that. I like it. If you could spend a day as a character in a book, who would it be?
Jane Eyre.
Ooh. And what was your favorite toy as a child?
Uh, Dolls.
Did you make up stories for them?
I remember giving them haircuts, removing their socks because I hated socks. I still to this day can't wear socks or pantyhose or anything that, well, I wear socks, but I just nothing that like tight. It's too tight against me. Can't do it.
What are you most looking forward to in 2024?
I think just being healthy.
Yes.
But that's my plan, not God's, maybe. I don't know.
Well, let's hope. Hopefully,
Yes,
hopefully
yes.
you'll have good health all year. Do you prefer coffee or tea?
Tea.
Tea. And do you like to do anything else creative or crafty besides writing?
I do. I love crafts. I love crafts as long as I get to do them with other people. Like I don't like doing crafts alone, and I'm willing to do anything. Like basket weaving was the last thing I did. That was fun, and I hope to learn how to do pottery. I'm not sure that's considered craft, but this year I
I
have to
think
do
so.
pottery.
Pretty
Yeah.
creative. Yeah. Do you prefer reading a physical book or an e-reader?
Oh, physical, please. I mean, I'm constantly on a computer because of my work, so my poor eyes are like, give me paper.
I know, I know. What is the last book that you read?
I am reading a series of 4 books called The Wing Feather Saga by Andrew Peterson, which I love. I think they're a middle-age series. Must be where I'm at in terms of like brain because I love these books. Like I think there's one quote where he says something about the enemy digs a pit and the maker digs a well, something like that. I don't know.
Hmm,
I love these books.
he's a wonderful writer. Let's see. How about cooking at home or eating out? Which do you prefer?
Oh, I'd love to eat at home if someone else were cooking.
You said you were an enthusiastic cook.
I am, which is why I cook so much that every once in a while I'd like to have a little bit of time off. In fact, just I think it was last week I did a biblical recipe because like for this book I have to try things, and it was a quince and lamb braise over
Oh,
rice.
wow.
Oh, it was so good.
That sounds very ambitious as well. That's
Yeah, it was. I recommend it.
highly worth it, right?
Mhm. Very,
What
very.
was the first concert you ever attended?
I was trying to think about this. I'm gonna take a guess and say Jackson Brown, but I'm not sure.
Okay. What's a book that you're very excited to read in the future?
Ah,
That's hard to narrow down, isn't it? There's so many good books out there.
yeah. I don't know which one. I would say like one of Julie Clausen's current series. I read the first one, so I want to read the next couple as well.
Okay.
Maybe.
She's another wonderful author.
She is.
And what is one thing most people don't know about you?
I'm very short. I think you can see actually I think I put my chair too far down. It should be a little higher, but only 5 feet tall.
Okay. Well, we're at the part now that I get to show the earrings that I made to match your book cover. Can you
I
hold up your
can't
book
wait.
again? Can you hold up the book again?
Sure, I can't wait. I haven't
So
seen it, you all.
yes, I know. So I fell in love with those mountains and that sky. And I was trying to decide, and I actually made two sets because I couldn't decide which way I wanted to go. So the first set is they're almost like watercolor, like
Oh,
on your
that's
website and all of
gorgeous.
your, yeah, and sort of got the same sunset.
It's
And then,
totally like this. Oh my gosh.
yes,
You're
yes.
so clever.
And then the other one, because that was so sort of soft and your colors on the book are so bold, I did another set that's a little more bold.
Oh,
And
that's
that one's shimmery, so
beautiful.
very girly.
Oh,
And that one
beautiful.
also has a pendant to go and
Oh,
sort of
gorgeous.
kind of Middle Eastern style a little bit there.
Yeah, it
So,
definitely is Middle Eastern. That has that flavor.
yeah.
Well
So
done.
our readers and followers can just go to our social media and they will see the link to go ahead and share the giveaway, and it'll take them through what they can do to earn extra points to be added to the giveaway. They can follow us on social media, they can sign up for newsletters, they can share our posts, and then we will pick a winner Wednesday night, and I will send them the jewelry and you will send them a copy of your first book, Pearl in the Sand, because that is the best one to start with. If you're going to read Tessa Afshar, start at the beginning. Tessa, it was so great to talk with you. Thank you so much for sharing about your books and your heart. And it was just so fun getting to know you more.
The same here. I enjoyed it so much. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.